The first time I knew Peakridge Systems was rotting was not during an outage. It was in the lobby, under the motivational mural that said, "Build Bold," where a security guard handed me a bright orange visitor sticker and smiled like we were playing a cute little game. I had worked there 8 years. My badge still opened the turnstiles, but my name on the screen did not. Someone had quietly flipped a toggle, the kind that says you exist on paper, but not in the building. The guard shrugged, apologetic. The system says visitor. Probably a glitch. Probably. Peakridge ran on probably. Probably the logs were fine. Probably the backup ran. Probably Lena Ward will fix it before anyone important notices. I peeled the sticker, slapped it on my blazer, and rode the elevator up with 3 new hires filming a day in my life clip. One of them practiced a wink in the mirrored wall. Another adjusted a ring light like we were about to summon revenue with good angles. At 9:12, I sat across from Evan Holt, our CTO, in the executive conference room that smelled like lemon wipes and fear. Between us lay months of my work: dependency maps, rollback plans, the architecture for Project Nightjar, a full rebuild of our payments platform that kept our biggest clients from leaving us in a flaming review thread. Evan did not touch the documents. He scrolled his tablet like it was feeding him weather updates. "Lena," he said, with the tone of a man reading a script he did not write, "I am restructuring Nightjar. You are moving into an advisory capacity. Troy Vance will lead architecture. We need faster momentum." Faster momentum. Troy had been here 10 months. He spoke in bold fonts. He called safeguards friction. He once asked if encryption was the same thing as compression, then laughed like it was a charming joke instead of an emergency. I kept my face calm. "When does it start?" "Immediately. Troy is already briefed. You can support if requested, but he is making final decisions." I nodded, gathered my papers, and stood. No shaking hands, no visible shock. I made sure my expression said professional acceptance, because women are allowed many things at work, but surprise is not one of them. On the walk back to my desk, something cold settled in my chest. Not anger, not panic. A clean, sharp clarity, like the moment you realize a house is on fire and you have been the only person carrying water. At my workstation, the usual chaos waited. 3 Slack messages, 2 urgent emails, a calendar invite titled Quick Sync, which is corporate for we are about to ruin your afternoon. A junior engineer named Ben stood by my chair with hopeful eyes. "Lena, can you look at my merge request? It touches the webhook handler." I glanced at the clock. 9:38. I could have said yes, because I always said yes. I could have saved him from a subtle mistake that would become an incident later. But I had just been demoted in the most polite way possible. Advisory, a decorative word for quiet. I said, "Ben, the code review process is in the team queue. Tag Troy. He is lead architect now." Ben blinked, like I had spoken underwater. Then he nodded and walked away. At noon, I watched through the glass wall as Troy presented my diagrams. He traced my arrows with a marker like he had invented flow. Evan smiled. Heads nodded. People praised Troy for his confidence, as if confidence was a substitute for comprehension. My phone buzzed. A message from Ops. "Can you sanity check the cutover plan? Troy says we can skip staging." I typed back slowly. "The runbooks cover it. Follow the documented steps." Then I opened my calendar, changed my workday start to 9 o'clock, and set a hard stop at 5 o'clock. At 5:01, I shut my laptop while the office still hummed. The air felt wrong, like leaving a party before the hosts notice the cake is missing. On the subway home, I stared at my reflection in the dark window and realized I had spent years being the invisible hinge holding a door upright. Now the door belonged to Troy, and doors slam when hinges walk away. By the time I reached my apartment, my roommate Maya looked up from the kitchen and froze. "You are home before sunset," she said. "What did they do to you?" I took off the visitor sticker and set it on the counter like evidence. They reminded me, I said, that I am replaceable. Maya leaned closer, eyes narrowing. And what are you going to do about it? I smiled, small and calm. I am going to let them find out what replaceable costs. The next morning, I arrived at 9:07, holding a coffee I had actually tasted instead of inhaled like fuel. Official policy said the workday began at 9 o'clock. Unofficial culture said the workday began whenever your guilt woke up. My desk had 4 sticky notes on it, each one a tiny crisis someone had parked in my lap overnight. I read only the first words. Auth broken. Cache weird. Vendor key expired. Need you. I peeled them off and dropped them into the recycling bin with the calm precision of a surgeon disposing of gloves. At 9:15, Troy appeared beside my chair. He wore a fitted suit and the grin of a man who believes the universe is a customer service hotline. Lena, quick question. The Nightjar token service is doing a thing. I think it is a library issue. Can you hop in with me? I kept my eyes on my screen. Have you checked the Nightjar wiki? Yeah, but it is like a lot. I just need the headline. The headline is, read it. I clicked into a code review I had ignored for 3 weeks while saving other people from their own shortcuts. Submit a ticket if you find a gap. His grin stiffened. You are being kind of intense. I looked up. Troy, you are lead architect. This is your project now. He stood there for a beat too long, waiting for me to soften, to rescue him from the discomfort of responsibility. When I did not, he walked away with a new expression, confusion, the natural enemy of entitlement. By 10:30, the old pattern tried to reassert itself. Kendra from security stopped by with a vulnerability alert. Lena, the webhook handler is rejecting a new signature format. We need a quick fix. Open a ticket, assign it to the platform queue. It will be triaged. She stared. You are the platform queue. Not today, I said, and returned to my work. At lunch, I did something scandalous. I ate lunch. In the break room, I watched engineers shuffle in with their laptops open, chewing while they typed, like humans were designed to metabolize deadlines. I sat with my sandwich and listened to the office noise. Slack pings, keyboard clatter, someone laughing too loudly in a meeting room. I thought about all the fires I had put out before smoke became visible. The silent patches, the midnight scripts, the careful guardrails that made our systems look easy, which is the most dangerous compliment in tech. At 2 o'clock, Evan called a team meeting. Troy stood at the whiteboard and announced his new timeline for Nightjar. He had compressed a phased migration into a single cutover weekend. He cut validation steps in half. He labeled staging optional. He said the words fast feedback loop twice, as if repetition created safety. People nodded, because confidence is contagious, and doubt is bad for career health. No one asked me for input, so I did not give it. After the meeting, a senior engineer named Nora pulled me aside in the hallway. That plan is reckless, she whispered. Tell me you see it. I see it. Then say something. I met her eyes. Troy is the lead. Evan made that choice. If you have concerns, escalate them to Evan in writing. Nora looked pained. You built half of this system. I documented all of it, I said. Documentation is what leadership asked for instead of my voice. By Thursday, the boundaries had become a visible problem. Not for me. For them. Slack channels filled with unanswered questions. People kept tagging me, then untagging me, like maybe my name was a summoning circle that no longer worked. Someone deployed a config change to the wrong environment, because the runbook had not been updated since Monday. It had been updated by me, usually. Quietly. Automatically. Like breathing. Now nobody was breathing for them. At 4:40, an alert flashed on the incident dashboard. Payment latency spiking. Error rates creeping up. The familiar itch hit my hands. Fix it. Stop it. Prevent it. Instead, I watched. At 5 o'clock, I logged off. At 5:03, I walked out. In the elevator, I heard Troy laughing in a conference room, loud and performative, telling someone, "We are moving fast. We are not afraid to break things." I almost pitied him. Almost. Outside, the evening air felt like a new planet. I walked home without checking Slack once. When I opened my apartment door, Maya was on the couch, laptop balanced on her knees. "You look calm," she said suspiciously. "That is either healing or revenge." "Both," I said. "Healing is just revenge with better sleep." My phone buzzed. A message from Ben. "The token service is failing tests and Troy says the docs are confusing. Can you please help?" I stared at the screen, then typed, "I am off work hours. Follow the runbook." Another buzz. A message from Ops. "We might need you on standby this weekend." I set the phone face down. If they wanted my standby, they should not have made me a decoration. Maya leaned forward. "How bad is it?" I breathed out slowly. "Not bad yet. But Troy is about to discover that speed is not a strategy. It is a shortcut. And shortcuts have cliffs." Saturday night, I was halfway through a movie with Maya when my phone began vibrating like it was trying to escape the table. One call, then another, then a third. I did not pick up. My thumb hovered over the screen anyway, because habit is powerful and loyalty can feel like responsibility. Peakridge had trained me to think a crisis was a personal moral test. If I did not answer, someone might suffer. Systems might fail. Clients might leave. People might lose jobs. Then I remembered the visitor sticker. I let the phone keep buzzing. At 10:17, a message arrived from Nora. "Production is unstable. Troy pushed the cutover early. Evan is in a war room. They are panicking." At 10:21, Ben. "I think we corrupted the token cache. Troy says to flush it." At 10:24, Kendra from security. "We lost signature verification. Something is bypassing checks." At 10:27, Ops. "We are seeing duplicate charges. Legal is asking questions. Duplicate charges." The phrase hit like a cold glass of water. Not because it was surprising, but because I had warned about it months ago, twice, in writing, with diagrams, with a rollback plan that required staging. Troy had called staging optional. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water with deliberate slowness. Maya watched me like I was a bomb technician. "Are you going to help them?" she asked. I took a sip. "I am going to help myself first." That sounded dramatic, but it was true. I had spent years putting Peakridge ahead of my own life. Every weekend interruption was a brick in a wall around my time. Tonight, I was leaving the wall standing. At 10:35, Evan called. I let it ring. At 10:40, an email arrived titled "Urgent, Nightjar Incident Command." At 10:44, Troy finally texted me directly. "Lena, we need you. Please. The token service is failing and payments are bouncing. What did you do to the configs?" I stared at the words. What did you do? The reflex to defend myself flared, then flattened into something sharper. I typed back. "I did nothing. Follow the documented migration steps. Restore staging. Roll back cutover." Three dots appeared, then vanished. At 10:51, a new text. "Docs are not helping. Please get on a call." I did not respond. Instead, I opened my laptop, not to fix their system, but to review my own records. I pulled up the Nightjar repository, the commit history, the warnings, the archived emails where I flagged the exact failure mode, duplicate charges caused by token mismatch during partial cutover, the notes where I wrote, in plain language, "Do not skip validation." My revenge was not sabotage. My revenge was receipts. At 11:06, a news alert pinged my phone. Not public news, a client status feed. Our biggest client, Oakwell Marketplaces, had posted, "We are experiencing payment disruptions with our provider. Transactions may fail. Updates forthcoming." Oakwell was 30% of our revenue. At 11:12, a message from legal. "We need an immediate technical statement regarding duplicate charges. Please respond." At 11:18, Maya muted the movie. The apartment felt suddenly quiet, like the air was holding its breath. "You are really not going to fix it," she said softly. I watched the Slack notifications explode on my screen. "I am not on call," I said, "and I am not their emergency plan anymore." At 11:26, an email from Evan arrived, short and stripped of ego. "Lena, we need you in the war room, now." There it was. Not advisory, not momentum, need. I stared at the message until it blurred slightly. Then I closed the laptop. I went to bed. Sunday morning, I woke up to the kind of silence that means something finally broke hard enough for everyone to hear it. I made coffee. I ate toast. I looked at the city outside the window, people walking dogs like nothing was collapsing. At 9:03, I checked my phone. 112 missed messages. A single new email sat at the top, marked priority, from our chief executive, Serena Pike. Subject: "We need to talk, immediately." I smiled, small and calm, and set the phone down again. "Not yet, Serena. First, I wanted them to understand what it felt like to build a business on a person, then pretend the person was optional." Monday morning, I arrived at Peak Ridge at 9:15, holding my coffee and wearing no visitor sticker. The guard scanned my badge twice. "It works now," he said, relieved. "Must have been a glitch." "Sure," I said. "A glitch." Upstairs, the office looked like the aftermath of a storm. People moved fast without direction. Engineers huddled in corners arguing over logs. Someone had written, "Please do not deploy," on a whiteboard in thick red marker like a prayer. At 9:40, Evan summoned me to the executive conference room. Serena Pike was already there, chief executive posture perfect, eyes sharp with the controlled fury of someone who just saw revenue evaporate in real time. "Lena," she said. "No warm-up, no small talk. We had a catastrophic incident." I sat. I waited. Evan cleared his throat. "Nightjar cutover caused token desync. That triggered duplicate charges. Oakwell froze payments. We were down 9 hours." Serena leaned forward. "We need you back leading architecture. Immediately." I folded my hands. "What changed?" Evan blinked. "Lena, this is not the time." "It is exactly the time," I said calmly. 2 weeks ago, I was moved aside for momentum. Today, you want me back because momentum lit the building on fire, so I am asking what changed about me. Serena stared like she had never seen an employee speak in complete sentences without fear. Evan looked like he wanted to dissolve into the table. "Nothing changed about you," Serena said slowly. "We made a mistake." I nodded. "Thank you for saying it." Evan pushed a folder toward me. "Lead architect title restored. Compensation adjustment, bonus eligibility. We can formalize today." I did not touch the folder. "I will not return under the old rules," I said. Serena lifted an eyebrow. "Explain." I took a breath and let the clarity do its work. "I will lead recovery and rebuild under these conditions: final technical authority on nightjar decisions, written boundaries on work hours, and a real on-call rotation that does not magically become my problem. I want budget for infrastructure fixes we have deferred for years, and I want a documented escalation process that cannot be bypassed by someone with confidence and a calendar invite." Evan opened his mouth. Serena raised a hand and he stopped. "How much budget?" Serena asked. 75,000 annually to start," I said. "And I want hiring approval for 2 senior platform engineers within 60 days. You built a single point of failure and called it efficiency. That ends now." Serena leaned back, studying me. "You are negotiating like a consultant." I smiled. "I am behaving like an adult who learned from experience." Evan tried again. "Troy will not like reporting to you." "Troy can like whatever he wants," I said. "His feelings do not process payments." A silence fell. It was not hostile. It was the quiet of a room realizing the balance of power just shifted. Serena tapped the folder without opening it. One more question, Lena. Why did you not answer during the incident? I met her gaze. Because I was not on call. Because you removed me from the project. Because I have been saving this company quietly for years and you rewarded me by making me decorative. I did not sabotage you. I did exactly what you asked. I stopped being the hero. And I learned something bigger than all of it. Being indispensable is a trap. Being respected is a choice. And I chose myself quietly, permanently, with a signature and a hard stop at 5.